I'll do this. And so he talked me through what he said. What you need to do is I'll become the host, and then if you record, you are recording, fab.
Yes, I've managed to press record. Okay.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
I can edit it.
Yeah.
I will get a lot of my chat. Good.
Okay. Okay. What will probably be good is if just for 30 seconds, if we just, well, for about 5 seconds, if we just inanely grin for a minute, and then I'll start, shall I? Sorry, Joe. She's doing all right.
I'm quite used to it. I spent many years working with the BBC and ITV. You'd be surprised at the things they ask me to do. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, if we just do a quick grin for 5 seconds or so, and then. Hi, Adrian. Welcome. Great to have you with us. Adrian, do you want to just tell us a bit about who you are and what you do? Yeah, I remember you described yourself once as an unconventional Baptist minister, which I always think is a great introduction.
Please don't. I'm a person who hates being labelled, so that's stymied that first question.
Oh, sorry.
I don't like it. Well, I can't fit into a box after all the eating I've done in recent lockdown, but I don't easily fit into a pigeonhole. I spend a good deal of my time leading an amazing team of chaplains in Taunton in Somerset. And they really are a remarkable bunch. All of them, apart from me, give their time voluntarily. At least half a day a week they devote to their particular aspect of chaplaincy. And we've broken it down in our area into 6 or so clusters, we call them. So we work in the public space. We've got an older gentleman who's brilliant at engaging people and just provoking thoughtful comments. What do you make of Jesus, and so on. And he does that in such a natural way that in recent months, no one has refused to engage with him. He's just wonderful. We have chaplains who are, for many years, have been embedded in local shops. That's the big supermarket chains and the individual retailers.
Okay.
We've got a number of us who go into the big offices. I look after the Admiralty's Hydrographic Office, who draw the charts of the sea. Very big office, 1,000 people in Taunton. As well as our local authority, we have both a county and district council offices in town. And we've developed in recent years work amongst care homes. So the half a dozen care homes have dedicated chaplains. Others we associate with, particularly a home for rehabilitation of offenders and the specialist Abbeyfield care. We have developed a work on the railways at the request of the British Transport Police. That's not looking after the staff and the police so much because they're covered by another work, but members of the public who may be anxious, distressed, just flustered by undertaking a rail journey. And that's been a super development in recent years. And then we continue, as all chaplains would, to engage with the marginalised, and that's particularly focusing on the homeless. And we're thrilled that our council is one of the beacon schemes during the current crisis. They've had extra money given them. They've taken over an old halls of residence for a local college that was vacant, and some 50 ensuite bedrooms are now available. So nobody in our locality need be homeless. Some choose to be, but they really don't need to be. They're a complete wraparound service with access to all the support groups that will help them address the issues that have almost inevitably led to and exacerbated their problem on the streets. I've probably summarised, hugely, but that's an amazing team of 35 volunteers, and I have the privilege of working alongside them.
So you've got chaplains almost in like so many spheres, just being a Christian presence all over the place, and they're not paid staff. They're just ordinary Christians trained, giving their time, serving, blessing their local community.
And they are Christians from all
diverse places.
Absolutely, they're Christians from all walks of life. Very few of them have got church labels, but they all have a personal relationship with God, and they take that with them wherever they go. The latest or the newest development will hopefully unroll, despite the COVID restrictions. The court service is under huge pressure. We see it in the news, backlog now of cases to be heard. And the staff there, again, have encouraged us to provide chaplaincy to the victims, the witnesses, even possibly to those who are accused, although we will have to follow very, very careful protocols. And of course, the staff themselves. We work closely with our hospital chaplaincy and with the growing number of schools chaplains, but the hospital and schools don't come under our remit. It's an amazing, in our county, we have well over 300 chaplains. Almost all of them are volunteers to one extent or another. It's the church, actually long before COVID, realizing that we're not constrained by church walls, and we're engaging with the 95% of people who don't generally contact the church in the course of a month.
And that's something I find incredibly inspiring. And my first contact with Adrian actually was through a group called Street Pastors, when I'd sort of half pioneered, I suppose, or Street Pastors in Salisbury, and then I got a job in Bristol, and so I had to pass on my baby almost, as it were, to this other guy who did an amazing job and saw Street Pastors Salisbury come to birth, and I turned up. I turned up to see them launch Street Pastors Salisbury, and then Adrian came along and helped us birth Street Pastors Kingswood. So it's a Street Pastors thing as well. Got to know Adrian from. But one of the things I liked about Street Pastors was it was very much, again, it's a chaplaincy role really. It's coming alongside the nighttime economy and blessing, and its words are, what's it? It's wrong now. Listening, caring, and helping. Yeah. And this beautiful, non-judgmental Jesus-y presence is just what you're about. And I guess that's the same ethos with your chaplaincy thing. You're just taking that model and pulling it that extra bit further. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you could use the same phrase of Street Pastors as we do of chaplaincy. It's loitering with intent, and it's an intent only to share, to be of help, to support, to share God's love. And we only act in a religious way if appropriate. So if people welcome prayer, who better to pray than someone who's already in touch with God? Many people do. And I think, as you will have experienced with Street Pastors, people are far more spiritually attuned than the general public would give credit for.
That's true.
Who would have thought that at 3 a.m. we'd be having deep and philosophical conversations about the meaning of life and someone's value? But we do that regularly, and we do that in the daytime with chaplains.
In fact, actually, today I've literally just come back from. I work for a homeless charity at the moment, and we went out to give out food to whoever was hanging around on the streets, and we ended up having several spiritual conversations, including a guy who was telling me today that he's 5 days clean of drugs, and you're like thinking, and was able to have a little chat and pray with him, and you're thinking, this is a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, no,
and yet God's about. And I think so often, I think our churches have this idea of, you said about being constrained within the church walls, often have this idea about what happens in our building, but actually it's about the kingdom of God. What is God doing in our community, in our context, in our locality, and how can we join in with that, which I think is a much better and more exciting question.
Well, Jesus told his followers to go, and for all sorts of good and understandable reasons. The church has insisted on saying, come to us, come to our service, come to this, come to that, which is fine. I know it's well meant, and there are some really great activities happening within church-like buildings or rented schools, but we do want to get back to that the go mentality. And we use open questions. It isn't all about coming up and beating someone over the head with a 4x4 Bible. I genuinely want to know.
I take that expression so often.
You may have heard it before. It is about saying, what's on your heart today? What makes life significant? What gives your life meaning? If you ask that question of anyone, you will very quickly know what makes them tick. You will probably get a good idea of where they're at in terms of their sense of worth, well-being, and hope or lack of it. And from that, people will open up. We don't pry, we don't use clever techniques. It is about coming. I think the best example, and it's based really on the Royal Navy chaplaincy example. Royal Navy, going back hundreds of years, has had people of faith on board and part embedded, and they come alongside. It's a naval or a seamanship term when ships come alongside each other and you journey together. And it is about sharing that part of the journey. And as I say, as people who are still learning ourselves, we've all got L plates up. I don't profess to be an expert in anything particularly, other than my ongoing relationship with God through Jesus. And if I can add value and learn through the engaging with others, that's all to the good.
One of the things I've been really impressed by you guys in Taunton is that the way you have great partnerships with the other agencies, you've great partnerships with the council, good relationships with the police. It was evident when I came out with you. You've got good relationships with presumably the retailers and the shops and the local sort of nighttime economy, the local retail economy, the care sector, or wherever it is you're working alongside. Is actually, as Christians, we often fear that partnership, that working alongside agencies. And in fact, we use terms like spiritual and secular, or all those sort of stuff. And actually, you seem to be very much good at Christians being in partnership and working alongside other agencies in a positive, wholesome, godly way.
We're all engaged in that great experience of finding out what life's all about and how we do it. We believe we do it with the help of God and all that He's revealed through the Bible and those who've gone before us and shared their experience. So we are made welcome. In the business and retail sector, it's fair to say that a chaplain is invaluable. Now, we follow modern safeguarding guidelines. We've learned all the horrible lessons that the church and other bodies have got into in the past. But we are not management. We're not the union. We're not political. And if someone feels they can't share with their work colleagues or their boss, often it's a health or a family situation, they can talk to a chaplain, know that the person is genuinely concerned. We do signpost because, as you say, we've got this amazing network of involvement with other bodies. And I have to commend the great work of the Mind Mental Health Organisation, particularly, who have really stepped up in the last year, increasing their availability hugely. And with confidence, and indeed it cuts both ways. I had a meeting last week with someone from a public body who'd been told they were putting in for a big funding bid, and they were told by the secular grant making body, you really should get involved with the chaplains. And I think this is stunning when a secular body, to use your your comment, says you've got to go and talk to those faith people, because you want to help people in all aspects of their life. So just providing them with a bit of culture or artistic input isn't sufficient. If people have mental health issues, not that we're experts in that, but we will embrace and be sympathetic and accommodate that, then we can. I was thrilled. It's not often, I say not often, it does happen occasionally. I mentioned it when I was talking about the railways. It was the British Transport Police that came to us. We didn't go and beat down the door and say, we want to engage with people. We want to do a crusade type mission. We just want to be where people are. And they said, yeah, we've got people. They know they have people. Sadly, we hear it on the news headlines when things go completely badly with the railways. And you'll hear of the network being stopped because of an incident on the railway. And we usually know what that means. We don't want to get to that stage. We want to come alongside them when they're at the anxious or the disturbed stage, and to talk them through it, and to hand them over to our friends who are professionals with the expertise they need.
I think there's something really exciting about just seeing the possibilities of blessing in all sorts of interesting places. I was looking the other day at a chaplaincy work at Beachy Head, again, which seems, again, just again, meeting people where they're at when they're having a time where they need somebody, and you're just thinking, often with the chaplaincy role, often it is just that little bit of what I call sanctified imagination, thinking, what would it look like if the church got out the building and blessed people?
It's having time. We've all had a lot of time in this last 12 months, but ordinarily, no one's got time anymore to give to people. Again, people set aside half a day and more and say, I'm not rushing off to a meeting, got no agenda. I'm simply here. If you want to talk, that's fine. If you want to be silent, that's fine. If you don't want me here, God bless you. I'll move on to others that would like that. We rarely find people, even if you don't have politeness, they'll welcome a chaplain. But they are amazing people. They carry with them all the experiences they've had, and the number of times that God puts someone alongside a person who's approaching us who's got a similar. No one's ever exactly the same. We're not that naive and we're not that insensitive, but quite often someone who's lost a child will find that one of the chaplains declares, actually, I have a little bit of an idea. I've been through a similar situation. I think, wow, that's God at work. That's not us contriving it, because we couldn't possibly have known. Most recently, I've been talking to people facing redundancy. It's a national news story that Debenhams is going out of business. We've got a big Debenhams store, but we've also got their support centre, their admin and human resources centre, 200 people. I've been through redundancy. I have some idea of the challenges, but the only time in my life I would say I had real mental health problems, it went to the core of me and really quite destabilised me. God brought it through in the end, but at the time I was saying, where's God in all this and what's going to happen? But thankfully I did continue to factor him into the equation and did some very practical things which I can advise them to do, and again bring in other organisations that are eager to help. But that's going to, sadly, looks as though it's going to be a growth aspect of our work, and we're doing all that we can to make resources and people available who can move sensitively into the area where people are facing. It isn't just the loss of your job, it does impact on all areas of your life, your social standing, your networks, not least your finances.
Yeah, I found that actually when I stepped away from my Anglican mold, just because and finding a new role, a new identity was actually one of the toughest things I've ever done. In fact, I've half written a book about it. Well, but written a book about that and some other stuff. But but it is the very core of who you are is often affected very much by what you do. I think that's very much a human thing of, actually our identity is in God, but actually we realise how much our identity is actually in other things too. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adrian. And before last line to give to you, or last opportunity, I guess if you want to throw something controversial in, this is your opportunity. But if you could say one thing, either your younger self or someone who's watching this video and maybe thinking, I'm interested in what he's got to say.
I have the privilege now, as I've just turned 60, and I can face both ways. I'm looking out to those people who want to engage. But I'm also still talking to my friends in the churches and saying, look, guys, some of the old models don't work. They're not happening. And so, where our chaplains can't go into their workplaces, they've gone into our local park. And they've realised that people are sitting on benches. They've done their exercise, their circuit, whatever they've done. They're longing for someone to come alongside them. And whilst it sounds incredibly trite to say, let's all be nice to each other, actually everybody, whatever their faith and background, has the potential to make someone else's day a better one. And I would say, appropriately, and keeping 2 meters at the moment, do say hello to people, do greet them, and you'd be surprised what lies behind some people's smiles and some people's tears. And it's a privilege to go on that journey, even if it's only a very brief one with someone. May never see them again. And then there are times of sadness where I've got 2 funerals, one of a homeless guy, 43, died on the railways, had a long-standing history of heroin addiction and alcohol abuse. I met him in the summer. He greeted me warmly. Hi, Adrian. We had a really good encounter. He'd been in the hostel I spoke of, and I knew he was doing some artwork. And he said, yeah, I really want to do something. Someone I know well had met him just a couple of weeks ago, and he was in a bad place, and he said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to go into every primary school and secondary school in our town and tell them this is what drink and drugs can do to you. That was a profound comment. Sadly, he's no longer with us to be able to do that, but we carry recollections of that lovely chap who God loved, and he knew God loved him when he was able to get his mind together. We've got his funeral to come. Another one is one of our team members, former street pastor, 72, taken ill with COVID on Sunday, rang his minister, said, please pray for me, I'm not feeling too good. Monday morning, admitted to hospital. Thursday morning, he went to be with God. And we've got his, now we're going to be celebrating his life, but we feel wretched that, he was 72, but he just hadn't quite had his jab and gone through that process. And so, we feel, as others do, deeply, that we're in an imperfect world, a messy world, and there aren't easy answers. I don't, if I ever did, I certainly don't now come out with easy answers, other than to keep close to God, who in the big picture will sort it all out.
Yeah, and that's a really wise word to say. I don't have all the answers, but I know God, and he's, don't know what he's going to say, what he's going to do, but I do know that he's good.
I'd rather go through it with God than without God, put it that way.
Definitely. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adrian. That's been
Good to
brilliant.
connect with you. Thanks for keeping that contact, and I look forward to hearing what's happening in your part of the world too.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. Cool. So yeah, no, thank